My name is Dina. I am a designer and a furniture artist. In this tutorial, I'm going to share with you the process of refinishing this side table. As you can see, I already started to paint it blue and I did some hand painting of roses. And I like this design concept, but I'm not liking it so much on this piece of furniture. So I decided to redo the process. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to transform it into another concept using purple metallic colors. So let's get, first thing as usual, I'm going to start with cleaning my piece. And get it ready for painting. I am using chalk paint that allow you to paint without sanding, which is a good option, especially for vintage pieces like this. And I like the base color. I have the blue. I think I can really repurpose this into my new design and have some of the blue and flower peeking through my new design concept. So since my piece is not very heavy and I'm not painting the back side, I did flip it to clean it, and I'm going to start painting here. Whenever you can, let gravity help you and work for you, because it will allow me to see corners and side that I would not have been able to see it if it was standing on its feet. I'm going to start the painting with this purple color, leftovers that I have from a previous project, which you can see. I have the card for it up now. And I'm going to use professional acrylic paint brush. I like using these because I feel, especially when I'm doing mixing and blending, it does give me a better result. And I aim for the middle level professional. I don't buy the cheapest one or the most expensive one. I go for the middle. I get them from mica. And when you are painting, don't put a lot. Start with thin layers and add to it later on. And what I like to do, the minute I apply paint in an area, I give it a few seconds to dry a little bit and then go back and redo this, because if I have any paint bleeding, this would be the time to move it before it really dries, and then you have to sand it down. And this paint is chalk paint that's already mixed with some water from before, from my previous project, so that's why I'm not adding any water. So I'm gonna start with a thin layer first. And usually when you dip your brush in the paint, and the first time you place it on your piece, aim for a middle, because this is when it has the most paint, and especially if you are mixing with water, you have chance of it bleeding. So if you are doing this on the sides, it will be very hard to see it. It's going to go under and it's going to cause the paint bleeding. So usually the first dip, go for the middle of the piece, because then if it's going to bleed, it's going to bleed toward the piece and you'll see it and move it around, versus if you are doing it in a corner like this or on the side, it will be harder to see. So usually I touch the sides after my paint after I already applied some strokes into the middle of the piece. And then when I don't have a lot of paint, I will go to the sides like this. This will definitely help you minimize the bleeding and the need to sand later on. So I like how the blue color is peeking through. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. This side is not finished, but before finishing it, I want to apply to the other side and see how it looks like as a whole piece before coming back and finishing it. So what I like to call this technique is sanding the other way. So instead of painting like a solid color and sanding it, I rather do this because I think it comes out more natural. And see, I have more paint on the sides here, on the corners, and I'm going to leave it because if it is aging in a natural process, usually the corners would lose the paint the least. And because the corners will be the areas where it's least touched. So if you have a piece that is aging, normally, whenever you have curves or corners, those would be the areas that when people is handling the piece of furniture would touch the less. So it will maintain more paint than other areas. And again, before it dries, I'm going to blend it like this. As you can see, my brush is really dry and it's barely getting any coat here, but I already have a base color that I like, and I can always come back and add more if I want it to be more purple. But right now I am going to see how the combination would come out first. I'm going to start painting on the top now. I'm very curious to see how it's going to blend with the base I already have. I'm going to start with a little bit first. And I'm going to... Although I know how to paint, I like the texture of the furniture transfer on furniture pieces a lot more than hand painting for some reason. So even if you know how to paint, furniture transfer honestly is a good option. Not because it's only faster, it does give a different texture. And for me, at least, it feels as part of the original piece versus hand painting. And in furniture, I think I like that better. just a personal preference. I want to add a lighter shade of the purple and blend it with my side table here. And the chalk purple paint I have is dry. I had it for a long time and I also did not cover it very well. So I'm going to show you a trick how I usually fix that, and I only did this with chalk paint. So I'm going to bring a container with a cover because I'm going to move all my paint to the new container. So this is all new water I added. I'm gonna get all the paint out here. As you can see, it's very dry, like sticky, not totally dry. And what I'm going to do, I still have some in the bottom of my can. I'm gonna put this like this here and add water to it and let it sit, and later on get whatever I still have here. Leave this aside for now. And next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring this hand food processor blender. You can use the regular blender. I just happen to have this one and I use it only for my paint. So obviously it's not something you need to use. You can use for cooking later on. So I'm going to start slowly. So I blend it a little bit. I'm going to put more water. Back in my new container. I'm going to show you now how this looks like now. It's back like new. I'm keeping the original purple with a clean brush on the side, and I'm gonna have an extra brush for blending, and of course plenty of towels here for blending anything darker in the back. And of course I have my spray water next to me as well. So I did let the original darker purple dry a little bit, but not a lot, just a little bit. And I like to use this kitchen towel paper because it does also print its texture that sometimes I can keep or I can blend in if I don't want it. And next I'm going to bring my dry brush and blend it in. And I'm going to show you later on how I'm going to create the metallic color. In other tutorial I had that you can watch as well, I used mica powder to create a metallic look. This one is going to be a different technique to create a metallic look on top of chalk paint that you definitely want to see. It's a really nice, easy way of creating a metallic look, because obviously when you are blending and painting, it's very hard to get this kind of blend with metallic paint. So the best way of doing it, in my experience, is to do it with a chalk paint that allows you to blend in and then have the metallic texture on top of that. So I'm going to show you today how I'm going to do that as well. So the next, for the next few minutes, we're going to be doing blending. So feel free to skip to the next chapters and see how I am doing the furniture transfer, or stay around and get more in-depth detail of how I'm going to be doing this painting and blending here. Then I'm going to bring my dry brush. And you want the white to go from the outside to the inside, because obviously those are the parts that would fade and age first. I need a darker shade of the purple right now, and I don't have it. So I'm going to use some of this red from the same chalk paint brand and add to it to create a darker shade. And I did say I'm not going to use mica powder to create the metallic look, which is still true, but I'm going to use it this time to make my paint darker. So there is endless possibilities of how you can use mica powder, and it's not realistic that you are going to buy each and every shade for the color you are painting with when you are doing blending like this. So you can always still use mica powder to make your color darker. And I'm still going with the final metallic look at the end. So when you mix the mica powder like this with the paint, it is not as shiny as how I did it in the past, where I just applied it right away on the piece, because I wanted to get the vibrant metallic color. But still, if it gives some shine to my piece, that's fine, because at the end of the day, I am going with metallic look. So see, it immediately made it darker and gave me the shade I want without having to buy additional can of paint. So these curves here, I am giving them some love and some paint, but not a lot. So I'm not focusing a lot on them, because there's going to be a lot of gold. This is the place where I'm going to place most of the gold. So to help me blend in right away. So I get closer so you can see how I am doing it. And I'm gonna do the same thing here thing here. Same thing here with all the corners. So now I'm going to show you how I am going to create the metallic finish. I'm going to be using this metallic paint. It's already purple, kind of silverish color that I have, and I don't have a lot, and I don't need a lot. So it's very much similar to whitewashing technique. I already have some from before here. I'm going to bring some of my paint to another container. Mix it very well, and what you want to do is add water, and it's going to be very hard for me to give you exact ratio how much water you need. It really depends on how much shine you want and how much you have on your base color. So you need to keep thinning it to get to the level you want. You don't want it to be overpowering and very strong. This paint already kind of thin paint, so even if I apply it on its own and the base color I have is darker, it's not going to completely cover it, but I still want it to be lighter, so that's why I'm mixing it with water. And if you don't like the base color you have, you can put less water. So that's a good way also of how you can get a metallic finish look. And as you saw earlier, I did a lot of shade and blending in my project that I wanted to keep showing, so that's why I am going to add water. And get your brush and test it on your piece of furniture on a small space first, till you get to the... I'm going to start working on the sides as well. So don't put a lot of this metallic paint on the brush, because we don't want it to be very thick and cover everything else we did. It is like very much like whitewashing technique. I'm going to create the line for my stripes now. So I'm going with 2 inches. So I have my paint tape in its place now, and since I'm going to be using spray paint, I'm going to cover around the rest of the side table so I don't get paint in the wrong places. And a good tip for you if you are doing furniture transfer, especially in the cold weather, put it neck in a warm room or close to a heater for a few hours before using it, because that really make it much easier for the furniture transfer to come out. Not fully done with all the furniture transfer that I might want to put on the top, but before I move with more, I want to do some blending to see how it looks like first. So I'm going to blend some of my adding the gold now, starting with the metallic stripes I did. And I'm starting with this water-based metallic gold that is not very thick, so it's still a very thin layer and it's more transparent. I am done with the furniture transfer on the top. I'm going to flip it now. I'm going to add just a little bit of furniture transfer on the bottom here, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it. When I am working on a project, I like to bring elements from all over the piece for the project to look as a comprehensive piece of art. So I'm going to put a little bit of the furniture transfer I had on the top, but not a lot, because there is a lot is going on already with the curves and this beautiful details in this piece. But also I don't want it to look like the top was a completely separate project from the whole piece. So I'm just going to add a little bit. The other side now. Oh, yeah. I'm adding back a little bit of the white or like the light purple base I had to give it a more of a distressed look as well on top of the metallic paint I had. You can leave it with the metallic paint if you want like a clean metallic look. And I want a little bit of a more distressed look on top of the metallic color, so that's why I'm going back now and re-adding some of the lighter purple paint, because that's what gives me the distressed look in my project. So I'll do some final blending now before I do the final wax and seal. Just a little bit. I mostly aim for the sides of the furniture transfer. This way it blends better and it looks like more of the original piece versus something you added later on. Especially on the sides, like what I have already here in the back and the pieces next to each other, it doesn't look, it looks. I'm going to have my wax metallic finish, and also I'm using the Fusion furniture wax, the dark wax, and I'm going to start. before finishing the dark wax, I want to take a look at the top here, because obviously I don't want it to be as dark, but also it cannot look very new versus the rest of the piece. So I'm going to use my brush and make sure it doesn't have a lot of wax on it, and just do a little bit of dry brushing around the edges here. And now it's very dry, so I'm just gonna get a little bit here more, and as I did earlier, I want more on the corners and as a frame, so I can apply more here and then tap a little bit on some areas where I wanted to get some of darker look. I'm gonna tap here because here I'm gonna do more tapping because I like how dramatic this darker wax on the corner. I want it to dry in its place. And again, if you feel this is too much of a process for you, the piece already looks nice and you can stop, but you can always try and push it a little bit more and do more. And if you want a less distressed look, then none of this would be really necessary. You can just have it like as stop at the 2 steps earlier, but this gives you more of an idea of the potential techniques and the more you can do with the piece, so you can decide, so you have more skills in your toolkit that you can use in your projects. I am doing more of this aging look because also my piece is very metallic purple, and that is a very soft color and look, and I like the contrast that this darker wax bring to it. It feels to me that it gives my piece a darker side, and I like this in my art, so this is a very personal preference. So my table is ready for the final seal right now, and you want to see how this is going to look at the end. And it's very important when you are getting ready to do the final seal, especially when you apply darker wax like I did here, to make sure that the piece is really dry, so you don't end up spreading the darker wax or the gold wax into other areas in the piece where you don't want it to be. So I did let it dry overnight, and I am going to do the final seal and try to give it a touch of give it a final touch of a glamorous look with the seal I'm going to do. And I will accomplish this by mixing some mica powders, some of the mica powder pigments I have. I did a lot of projects. You have an option to just use clear wax or antique wax and seal your project. And this project is also can be finished now because the paint I used, the chalk paint I used, is really in good shape, and with all the wax I did with the gold wax and the dark wax, I feel it's sealed really well. But I like to give it an extra step of protection, and while I'm doing so, I want to add another hint of glamour to my project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix slowly and test the look, and there is no correct formula of doing this because obviously each vintage piece takes the paint differently. And what you want to do is start with less and add as you go, and test on less obvious areas of your project before applying it across the whole piece. So I'm gonna get some of my wax out here. You can see it does not come out as smooth as some other brands, but with some preparation, you can totally overcome this. so I feel always I have to mix it a little bit more. And I'm going to go with a little bit of a lighter purple mica powder. Yes. And this can be a way of getting the metallic look without having, if you don't have the metallic paint I showed earlier, what you can do is you can basically paint the piece and do more of the metallic looks by mixing more of the mica powder pigment, and this will also give you the final metallic look, but you'll have to mix more mica powder than what I might be doing right now. I am going to give it a hint of gold, not a lot, just a little bit. Because I think a final shimmer gold will bring the piece together, since I have gold and I have my sparkle all over the place now. You want to mix it well. And also another thing you can do is not to mix it too much, because this way you will have different concentration of the mica powder in different parts of the wax, and when you spread it you will get multiple shades of the purple and the gold color on your piece. So that's another option of doing it if you want to get more shades into your project. So I'm going to test it first on my piece and see if I like how the color is looking. So I'm going to test it first here and see how it looks. And I'm going to open the door. It's sunny today, so having some of the natural light really helps in seeing what color is coming out, and it is perfect for what I want. There is a hint of, I don't know how much this is showing, there is a hint of the purple, but not really showing. So this is exactly what I need. And I think I did mix enough for the full project. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply the wax to the rest of the piece, let it dry a little bit, and show you the final look, and also show you the piece I'm going to be working on next. I won it in a very intense online bidding, and I did pay more than I usually would like to pay for vintage pieces that I'm going to refinish. So I'm gonna show you, and you can tell me what you think and what color I should apply to the new project. As promised, this is the new piece that I will be working on next. Please subscribe to my channel so you can get notifications for my upcoming videos and tutorials. If you like my tutorial, please hit thumbs up and like, and let me know what you think. Your support allows me to keep doing these videos and tutorials and offer them for free. So, see you next time.